It's fine.
It's up in the morning, it's on the dance. A little white cloud looks like a gambling rings. And I am a breathless soul for you. And the rappers do the robin beats the wings as a throat that trembles when he sings. Oh, he's a helpless people. And the happy hood rest out when the wind heads are down. Everybody early morning blue at the whispering stream at the bubble corrupt the fishes leap up and take it. For they are brothers over you. Still your hands, still your heart, still your face comes shining through. And all the morning goes blue. Still your mind, still your soul, but still the fire of love is true. And I am a brothers without you. The wind circles among the trees and it bangs about a room made of babies. Forever brothers without you. And the fox chases the rabbit around and the rabbit hides beneath the ground. For it is defenseless without you. The sky of daytime dies away and all the earthly things they stop to play. For brothers without you. I listen to my children going to let my flames slowly in my lungs. And I am a brothers without you. Still your hands, still your heart, still your face comes shining through. No, no, Still your soul, still your mind, but still find your love is true. I am breathless without
Morning and welcome. Nick Cave sounded a little bit strange there, but I wanted something that would give us the sense of a love story with the divine. Sounds like it's I'm breathless without you, a girlfriend, but if you listen to the words, it is the world. So, good morning. Welcome to Brighton Unitarians. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eleanor, and I'm a regular visitor to this beautiful chapel. Thank you for coming. Whether you come every Sunday or are here for the first time, you're welcome here today exactly as you are. For those of you joining us online, there are about, 35 people in this chapel and one dog. We can't see you. Are they connected actually? We can't see you, but we welcome you too. And we hope that some of the energy and the light of this chapel reaches you wherever you're joining from. So welcome. And I also need to apologize. The hymns that you received are not the ones that we're going to be singing. There's one that's different. So 97. If you have it at home, great. If not, I'm really sorry. But hopefully you can just imagine. It was a short one. So, welcome. Let's take a moment to honor our coming together today, making this time for ourselves and for the sacred. So please settle in and let go of anything you don't need to be holding right now. And I'm going to guide you in a grounding exercise, which will involve taking 3 deep communal breaths together, and then we're going to be chanting 3 times. But I'm going to prepare you a little bit before that, so it's not going to be 3 breaths right now. So this exercise is also to help us prepare for the meditation we're going to be doing a little bit later. So it's getting you used to this kind of breathing that I want you to do. That's helpful. So in a moment, I'm going to invite you to turn to the person next to you or the person behind you, depending on how you're arranged in your chairs. And if you don't want to be touched, you can just hold on to your own heart and make it clear that you don't want anyone to touch you. And if you're at home alone, then you can do the same. You just put it on your heart. But I'd like to invite you, if you can, to just find a partner and take your left palm and your right hand upward. So you're going to do one palm holding one person and the other. So kind of like this. So each person, if you put your left palm down, right palm up, turn to the other person and find the partner. You hold each other. Yes? So maybe turn between the elbows and the other. Okay, so everyone's found their partner now, except for you, and I will be with you in a second. So what we're going to do is close your eyes if it feels comfortable. Hold on, I know this is awkward, it's going to work. So I want you to take a breath that starts from the middle of your belly and goes up into your chest and then up into your nose. So just try it for a couple of breaths. So just feel the breath moving from your stomach up into your nose. And then I want you, once it's up there, so notice how it moves. And some people breathe very shallowly. That's fine. Just try to get it from your stomach inward. And then as we breathe out, we're going to go. Okay, and we're going to do it 3 times. And then we're going to chant the syllable Om. Om is a sacred syllable. It connects us to the universal consciousness. And even though we're not Hindu or Buddhist here necessarily, it can still reverberate for us. So let's do this. Okay, so close your eyes if it feels comfortable. We're going to start taking 3 deep breaths, and then we're going to do Om. Actually, I'm going to need to. I'm so sorry. So just hold your heart. Okay, ready? So inhale from the stomach. and out from the breath. Now, second time. And then third time. And now 3 arms. Come back to your positions. And here we are, live together. I will now light our chalice to mark the true beginning of our service, as Unitarian congregations do across the world. May this burning candle remind us of the fire that burns deep in the soul. That is the flame of the human spirit, touched into being by the mystery of life. May we feel it here and now. May it kindle in us an urgent hunger for justice, for compassion, for community, for reason and kindness. May we flare up like flames and make big shadows the divine can move in. And may we feel our deeper selves glowing with passion and longing for this sad and beautiful world and all beings within it, including ourselves. Amen. That was my adaptation of The Blessing by Eric Heller Wagner with a line by Rainer Rilke. O sapientia, I cannot think unless I have been thought, nor can I speak unless I have been spoken. I cannot teach except as I am taught, or break the bread except as I am broken. O mind behind the mind through which I seek, O light within the light by which I see, O word beneath the words with which I speak, O founding, unfound wisdom finding me, O sounding song whose depth is sounding me, O memory of time reminding me, my ground of being always grounding me, my maker's bounding line defining me. Come, hidden wisdom, come with all you bring, come to me now, disguised as everything. This poem by Malcolm Guite, which I have read before in this travel, touches deeply on my feeling of the divine. I can't say exactly why, but it does. And in the final lines, it addresses this impossible to define or to describe consciousness, almost as one would speak to a lover. Come to me now, disguised as everything. I have been preaching here for nearly 2 years, and while so many of you are familiar to me, I realize that I have very little understanding of your individual relationships to God or to the idea of God. I know that when I first started attending Unitarian services, whenever I heard the word God, an uncomfortable electrical current would go through my lapsed Catholic spine, and I would switch off. I still prefer to say the divine, and I know that some of you here will see yourselves as atheists. Our theological diversity is something that enriches our communities, and I'm always delighted by the variety of sources, ideas, and practices that hold us together as a movement and apart as we share in our diverse spiritual journeys. In our freedom and universalism, I do fear that sometimes we lose the deeper sense of the mystery at the core of most world religions, the sense of bliss engendered in the feeling of the divine, and ultimately the experience of awe that encounter, however expressed, can elicit. Stephen Crowther, who is here, often says that our relationship to God may just be our most intimate relationship. I still struggle with this and with imagining myself in relationship with the divine, though I hunger for expanding those moments in which I glimpse this in my own life. And I'm deeply envious of those who feel this relationship keenly every day. So today's service will be searching for these spaces of relationship. It will be divided into 4 parts. 1, touching the divine, trees and the blue iris. 2, divine love, love as divine, finding God in the Anamkara. 3, meeting the divine, in which we will come to a time of meditation inspired by the worship of the Hindu goddess Kali. And 4, speaking to the divine, prayer, ? So let's begin by singing our first hymn, 133 from the Green Book, How Can I Keep From Singing? Part 1, touching the divine, trees and the blue iris. When I was about 5 years old, I developed a strong connection with a tree. It was a young poplar tree that had been planted along the straight line of my grandmother's street, one fast-growing tree among many, to provide shade to her small-town boulevard. I could recognize my tree because at my eye level, it had 3 deep parallel marks on its trunk that reminded me of scars. I don't remember when I started this, but every time I recognized my tree, I would extend my arms and hug it. Its width was just a little thicker than my waist, and in those moments I felt intently that this tree and I belonged together. When I hugged it, something coming back from the tree gave me the feeling of being hugged back. Our embraces were never long, but I felt utterly safe and happy in the company of my tree. Looking back, I recognize in that encounter a sense of prayer. To step into that kind of uncomplicated communion with the tree, and by extension with the whole world, is a feeling that I seek and that I think certain kinds of contemplative practice can facilitate. The poet Mary Oliver, in all of her writing, also expresses this sense of communion with the divine in her observations and encounters with the natural world. In Rivers, in Dogs, in the Blue Iris, Mary Oliver finds the voice of the natural world calling back to her. She shows us how to come into the presence of the divine in every living thing, and her poems beautifully capture that sense of awe and wonder, as well as an almost sexual love of and for nature. I love her tree poem, so I'm going to read it to you. When I am among the trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. Does somebody need me to read this again? You okay? Yeah, one more time. Okay. When I am among the trees, by Mary Oliver. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. To go easy, be filled with light, and to shine is not simple. But sometimes it just happens. Sometimes the beauty of the world strikes us with a new force and brings us alive. At this point in the spring, it often feels to me, as though the natural world were calling out for us to get down on our knees and adore it. Have you stopped and looked at the wild pom-pom waving of the cherry trees this week? Have you heard them shouting, "Look at me, here, how bright my colors!" Have you seen their pink confetti turning the asphalt into a party? And what about bluebells? If there's one thing you can do for your soul today, it's to go and find an ancient woodland, anywhere around or even a park, and bask in their radiance. We don't have to be theists to feel the awe and wonder of life emerging from the world. Beauty is perhaps enough. But the way beauty stirs us, shapes us up, stops us in our tracks, it's like it's hugging us back. The celloist Yo-Yo Ma, in a wonderful interview with Krista Tippett on the On Being podcast, said that he can't say the word beauty without also equating it with the word transcendence. He notices how everybody has a different sense of what beauty is going to be and how it's going to feel to them. But when we encounter it, we have this startling encounter. It's almost like you take an extra breath. And he says that in this encounter we feel with beauty, when it happens, there's a transfer of life. So something from the beauty is filling us and coming into us, and it brings us alive a little bit. He likens this to the exchange between Adam and God in the Sistine Chapel, where the fingers are touching, the transfer of love, of life and love, perhaps. Something of the beautiful moves us, and we're filled with it. And something of this, maybe like Mary Oliver's trees, makes us shine. And the way certain places, mountains, lakes, rivers, call us to awe also explains how so many human religions found gods within the forces of nature. Sacred trees, holy mountains, the deep water of holy wells. Everywhere you go, these natural places are imagined as places of encounter. Humans go to meet them, and by that encounter, they are transformed. In pilgrimage to holy places, there is a transfer of life, almost an infusion of holiness, awe, and peace derived from this contact. So take just a moment now to visualize a natural place that feels sacred to you. Remember what it looks like, what it smells and feels like, and rest there with your mind for just a quiet moment. And now, if it feels comfortable, raise your hand if you have ever felt in being in that place, that something of the place is reaching out for you, almost embracing you, and that perhaps for a moment you are not alone. And when you feel that, no matter how difficult, so anyone feel that? About half. Okay. When you feel that, no matter how difficult your life, how lonely your circumstances, doesn't something inside you feel like singing? How indeed can we keep from singing? So let's sing our second hymn, number 97. Love knocks and waits for us to hear. Part 2. Divine love, love as divine. Finding God in the Anankara. Just as sometimes on a wooded path, an ancient tree seems to call us home, so it happens that we stumble in people who help us come alive to ourselves and can radically and suddenly transform us. The Irish poet John O'Donoghue explains that in the Celtic world, there was a term for this kind of person, in whose presence the divine is somehow revealed, the Anankara. Anam is the Gaelic word for soul. I'm probably pronouncing this, I don't know how it is actually pronouncing it. But anam is the Gaelic word for soul, and cara is the word for friend. The anam cara, or soul friend, is a person who awakens your life in order to free the wild possibilities within you. This person may be your teacher or your lover, a friend to whom you're able to show the most vulnerable parts of yourself, knowing that they will see and listen to you. In the sacred encounter between two souls that are daring and willing to listen to each other deeply, there is the discovery of the divine always there within their hearts. The poet and astrophysicist Rebecca Elson describes this feeling of divinity within the encounter between two people in her poem, Dark Matter 2. It's short. Dark Matter 2. In this, our galaxy of human ways, each of us, point-like, luminous, bends the path of those whose lives we touch. But there is something more that keeps us circling a common center, stops us spinning off into the void. You feel it in an unexpected pull, a sudden swerve of thought mid-stride, the deep well of almost weightless memory, the dense body of a passing God. Anybody need it again? Yes. Dark Matter 2. In this, our galaxy of human ways, each of us, point-like, luminous, bends the path of those whose lives we touch. But there is something more that keeps us circling a common center, stops us spinning off into the void. You feel it in an unexpected pull, a sudden swerve of thought mid-stride, the deep well of almost weightless memory, the dense body of a passing God. Elson uses that word, touch, as Yo-Yo Ma uses it when we encounter beauty, a transfer of beauty, a transfer of life where we are touched by beauty. Each of us, point-like, luminous, bends the path of those whose lives we touch, like the meeting of refracted light from distant planets, or the gravitational pull between satellites. Deep connection between people makes us shine and pulls us into a common center. Sometimes we can feel the dense body of a passing God in the middle of conversation, in a sensation that goes beyond words or thoughts, but is somehow triggered by words. It isn't even about what is said, but about the act of listening, of leaning connection into attention. Parker Palmer writes that the human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, and companioned exactly as it is. When our souls feel seen, when we feel witnessed, that is also the moment in which we may feel the dense body of a passing God or God's love. The idea that God is love, which is so key to so many world religions and is expressed twice in the New Testament, has been repeated so many times that it has become a cliche. Our language of love in English is particularly limited. In Italian, we have at least 2 different words for romantic sexual love and loving your friends or family. So we say amare or volere bene. But even there, in Italian, we don't have a word for spiritual love. Spiritual love, the love of God, the love for God, and the love that we feel in ourselves when we're stirred into aliveness by another. It doesn't have its own verb. In ancient Greek, it would have been agapao, from which the noun agape, the love of God for humans, and the human love for God. I think agape in English is usually translated as charity, but when do we ever use charity as a verb in English? Like, it's not anymore. But agape, this type of love, is profound, and its similarities to sexual passion could get people punished for heresy in past years. In the 13th century, the French mystic Marguerite Porete, for example, was burned at the stake for suggesting in her book, The Mirror for Simple Souls, that when filled with God's love, the soul comes into a state of ecstatic union with God. And for those brief moments, we humans become God. Maggie Claret was given the choice to renounce her ideas, but she chose to die for this passionate feeling, her truth. There's a special process of becoming that derives from deep encounter with our anamkaras. Behind your image, below your words, above your thoughts, the silence of another world awaits, says John Donahue. He writes, love can awaken what is divine within you. In love you grow and come home to yourself. When you learn to love and let yourself be loved, you come home to the hearth of your own spirit. You are warm and sheltered. And for all our anamkaras, let us give thanks. And let's sing our third hymn from the Purple Book, 67, I Am That Great and Fiery Force. Meeting the divine. Last month, visiting India for the first time, I got a small taste of how Hinduism integrates faith and ritual practices into everyday life. From the dashboards of cars to political billboards, Godheads are everywhere, and individuals connect and worship their chosen deity every day. In my ignorance, before arriving in India, I thought of Hinduism as a polytheistic religion, and I didn't expect it would have much to say to my nearly agnostic Unitarian self. Nearly agnostic. But I was wrong. I only realized while there that all the deities are just different expressions and manifestations of one universal consciousness. When sitting and meditating, the materialized deity of their choice becomes an interlocutor, much like the Anamkara in the Celtic imagination. After my workshops at IIT Delhi, where I was there for work, my colleague Subir took me on his Royal Enfield motorcycle through the busy and polluted roads of Delhi to pay tribute to the special incarnation of the goddess Kali, whom he feels very close to and talks about almost as a person. Now, this motorcycle detail is important because my life was at risk. And it influenced how I felt about meeting the goddess of death, Kali. Okay. So when we arrived at the temple had already closed, but a very nice guard let us pass, and so we were allowed to get into this space with nobody there. And even before I saw her statue, I felt a very strong feeling, which I can only describe as awe at being in the presence of the divine. All of the hairs in my neck and on my arms were sticking up, and when I reached the statue of Kali, it was as though she had summoned me and was giving me audience. Now, if you have ever seen Kali in pictures or statues, you will know that such an audience is not uncomplicated. So she has 3 eyes, each representing the past, the present, and the future. Her skin is dark black and shiny, making the redness of her outstretched tongue and bloodied hands even more striking. She has 4 arms. One of them is holding a scythe by which she chops down lives, just like the Grim Reaper. And in another, she holds the severed head and torso of a demon. She also has human skulls around her neck and human chopped off hands around her waist. So she's a very scary goddess. She's also trampling her husband, who is thrown himself at her feet to stop her from destroying the whole universe. So Kali is the fiercest manifestation of the divine feminine, and she represents ultimate power, death, time, destruction, and change. As the ultimate manifestation of the primordial cosmic energy, she is also the mother of all beings and of the universe. To stand in her presence in this way, where she's a statue, she's also this representation of absolute divine power, is to be made humble and reminded of our small and vulnerable mortal natures. And yet, as the cosmic mother, Kali is also meant to be always with us, holding us in her infinite embrace. So my colleague Sudhir, who knows about the real Hinduism and has read all the Vedas and the texts, actually relates to Kali in a much deeper level than my touristy experience of sort of meeting her in a temple for the first time. He sits down with her every day, and his connection, when he contemplates Kali, she holds her in his mind, but also feels cradled by her as if he were an infant and a baby. He actually meditates in the nude in his room. So this connection that he feels is both physical and intellectual, and he knows how to chant and to be in the right places. But as an ignorant outsider, my moving towards Kali can only be superficial, but Subir was willing to share a meditation with me, which I can teach you. And it's not a good idea for us to visualize Kali because she is a very scary goddess who will trample over your entire life and bring destruction. But when it comes to thinking about the divine in this meditation that I'm going to give you, please visualize whichever deity you feel comfortable with. And if you are an atheist and don't believe in any sort of divine figure, you can visualize a tree that you know, or just light. So just keep that in mind when we go to the meditation. So if you're okay with this, we're going to try this meditation that I've been taught. So I invite you to come to a comfortable position. Let go of anything you don't need to be holding. Perhaps straighten your spine. Bring your chin a little bit closer to your chest, and start breathing as I taught you before. So start from the stomach into the chest, and then up into your nose. So do this a few times, and just if we want to, we can also do that breath out. Okay, so let's do a couple of those normal breaths, deep breaths from the belly. And a second time. And now, when you breathe in, after your full breath that you've taken, do 1 or 2 extra breaths, like as if you're sipping the air or sniffing it. So go, and then beyond what you think you can hold in. And then hold for a second. So try that. So deep breath. And hold. And then exhale again. Do that again. Hold. One more time. And now resume a deep, normal breath. And notice any places of tension in your body. And where you see tension, imagine there's some black smoke floating away, almost like it's burning the tension away from you. Try that. In all the different places in your body. Still breathing deeply. And now bring your attention to the space between your eyebrows. Just focus on that space for a minute. A few minutes. And imagine that in that space there's a white light starting to shine brighter and brighter. And if it feels comfortable, place an image of God in that space between your eyebrows. Or if you're an atheist, a tree or something that feels sacred to you. And now allow the light that you've formed between your eyebrows to extend to your whole body. A little bit at a time so that you're shining. And let's bring this meditation to a close by chanting 3 Oms together. Again, when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Let's sing the last hymn, number 51, God of Grace and God of Laughter.